2 a.m. My front door crashes open. Some punk kid walks in like he owns my house, starts going through my stuff. I'm thinking home invasion, right? Grab my phone to call 911. He looks me dead in the eye and says, "My mom runs the HOA so I can go wherever I want." Wait, what? His mom runs the HOA? So that gives him breaking and entering privileges? The smell of cold pizza and adrenaline, my heart hammering against my ribs while this entitled brat ransacks my kitchen like it's his personal shopping mall. But here's what Trevor and his criminal mother didn't know that night. This kid was about to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between neighborhood politics and actual criminal law. Those handcuffs, they fit a lot tighter than his sense of entitlement. What would you do if some entitled punk invaded your home? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your stories. Let me back up. 3 months before that psycho broke into my house, I thought I'd found paradise. Willowbrook Estates, perfect little subdivision, decent schools for my 16-year-old daughter Zoe, HOA dues that wouldn't bankrupt me. I'm Marcus, by the way. Electrician, single dad, just wanted somewhere peaceful after my divorce exploded like a gas leak. You know the dream, right? Mow the lawn, pay the dues, wave at neighbors. Simple suburban bliss. Then I met the neighborhood's self-appointed dictator, Vivian Ashworth. Imagine your worst HOA nightmare, then give it a BMW and a God complex. 52, married to some insurance executive, lives in the McMansion that makes everyone else's house look like a garden shed. She'd somehow crowned herself Neighborhood Standards Coordinator, a title that exists nowhere in the actual bylaws. The sweet smell of fresh mulch from my weekend landscaping was still hanging in the air when Vivian decided to welcome me. Not with cookies, not with a friendly wave, with a violation notice. Week 3 in my new house. I'm savoring that perfect moment of morning coffee, before reality kicks you in the teeth, when I find this official-looking paper jammed in my mailbox like a parking ticket from hell. Violation number 1, non-regulation mailbox color. Brown post must be black, $50 fine, 72-hour compliance. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I missed something in the fine print. So I grab my HOA bylaws, 47 pages of mind-numbing legal speak about grass height and Christmas light schedules. I read every single word about mailboxes. Nothing. Zero. Zilch about colors. Time to call the HOA hotline, which, surprise, surprise, goes straight to Vivian's personal phone. Ashworth Residence. Hi, this is Marcus from Maple Street. I got a violation notice, but your bylaws don't mention mailbox colors. Listen here. Her voice could freeze boiling water. I've been maintaining community standards for 15 years. I think I know what's appropriate. I'm sure you do, but could you show me the specific rule? Click. She hung up on me. The pure audacity made my coffee taste like liquid disappointment. But wait, it gets better. Next morning, another violation notice. Excessive garden gnome display. I had one gnome. A little red-hatted guy that Zoe picked out because it made her smile during the divorce mess. Apparently, one gnome constitutes a display in Vivian's twisted reality. That's when I noticed the daily patrol. Every morning, Vivian's black BMW crawling past my house at exactly 15 miles per hour while she pressed her phone against the passenger window like some suburban paparazzi. "Dad, why does the mean lady keep taking pictures of our house?" Zoe asked over breakfast, her voice small and confused. "Great question, sweetheart. I wish I had a sane answer." My neighbor Dolores, this sweet 70-year-old grandmother, pulled me aside during one of Vivian's surveillance runs. Her weathered fingers gripped my arm like she was warning me about an incoming hurricane. "She's marked you now, mijo," Dolores whispered, glancing nervously at the prowling BMW. "The family before you?" Young couple with a baby. Vivian tortured them over sprinkler schedules until they sold the house and ran. Sprinkler schedules? Twice weekly maximum, never Sundays, never before 9 a.m. She makes up half these rules on the spot, then enforces them like federal law. The way Dolores kept checking over her shoulder told me everything. This woman had terrorized the entire neighborhood into silent compliance. But here's what none of us knew yet. Vivian's petty power trips were just the appetizer. Her 19-year-old son, Trevor, had been watching Mommy's reign of terror his whole life, learning that rules don't apply to the Ashworth family. College dropout, trust fund baby, zero respect for anyone or anything. And soon, very soon, Trevor was going to take the family business of intimidation to a whole new level. A criminal level that would land him in handcuffs and his mother in a courtroom. Because when you raise a kid to believe they're above consequences, eventually they test that theory. Boy, was Trevor about to get educated. 2 weeks after the Nome incident, Vivian decided to escalate. Big time. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. I'm in my boxers, barely conscious, when my doorbell starts ringing like someone's house is on fire. The acrid smell of burnt coffee from my forgotten pot mixing with that crisp autumn air through the screen door. Standing on my porch, Vivian Ashworth in full battle regalia. Clipboard, measuring tape, digital camera, and, here's the kicker, her son Trevor lurking behind her like some kind of entitled shadow. First time I'd seen the kid up close. 19, maybe 20. Designer everything. Shoes that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. That cocky smirk, rich kid's perfect in prep school. The type who's never heard no in his entire pampered existence. Mr. Rodriguez, Vivian announced, like she was serving a warrant. I'm conducting routine property compliance inspections today. Routine inspections. I'm still half asleep, coffee breath and bedhead in full effect. Since when? Since always. Community standards require regular assessment. Trevor snickered. Actually snickered. Nice pajamas, dude. Now, I'd done my homework after those first violation notices. Spent hours reading HOA law websites, legal forums, even called my buddy who works in property management. Turns out, most HOAs can only inspect common areas and whatever they can see from public spaces. Private property? That requires specific bylaw provisions written in black and white. Show me where in this bylaws it says you can inspect private property, I said, crossing my arms. Vivian's smile could have cut glass. General maintenance clause gives me authority to ensure compliance. Which section exactly? She ignored me, marching around my yard like she owned it. Trevor followed, making snide comments about my rental-quality landscaping and pointing out every minor imperfection like he was conducting a military inspection. The measuring tape came out. The camera started clicking. That familiar metallic taste of rising anger filled my mouth. Violation 1, Vivian announced dramatically. Trash cans visible from street. My trash cans were tucked behind my fence. You'd need a drone to spot them. Violation 2, garden hose improperly stored. The hose was coiled neater than a Navy ship. Violation 3, window screens show excessive oxidation. They were 8 years old, normal wear. Violation 4, driveway oil stain exceeds acceptable parameters. A spot the size of a quarter from the previous owner's car. That's when I'd had enough. All right, stop. I stepped between Vivian and my front door. Show me the exact bylaw that gives you inspection authority or get off my property. Trevor perked up like I'd just insulted his mother's cooking. Dude, you can't talk to her like that. She runs this place. No, she doesn't. She's a volunteer on a homeowners committee, not the Queen of England. Vivian's face went nuclear. How dare you? Show me. In writing, right now, or leave. The silence stretched like a guitar string about to snap. The sound of a lawnmower 2 streets over seemed deafeningly loud. Finally, Vivian spun on her heel. You'll be hearing from the board about this. Formal proceedings will be initiated. Trevor lingered as Mommy stormed back to the BMW. He wandered over to my electrical meter, took a photo with his phone, then my license plate. The little creep was building some kind of dossier. You have no idea who you're messing with, he said, that prep school smirk still plastered on his face. Yeah? Well, you're about to learn about trespassing laws if you don't get off my property. He laughed, this entitled, dismissive sound that made my fists clench. We'll see about that. I should have known the retaliation was coming. That evening, my phone rang. City Code Enforcement. Mr. Rodriguez? We received a complaint about unlicensed electrical work at your address. We'll need to send an inspector Monday morning. My blood pressure spiked. What kind of complaint? Anonymous tip. Someone reported seeing unauthorized electrical modifications. I'd been doing some perfectly legal home improvements, updating outlets, installing a new ceiling fan, all within code, all within my rights as a homeowner. But someone had been watching, someone with enough knowledge to make it sound suspicious. Monday morning, the city inspector showed up. Nice guy, actually. Spent an hour going through my work with a fine-tooth comb. Everything looks perfect, he said, signing off on his report. "Whoever called this in either doesn't know electrical code or was just trying to cause you trouble." "Any way to find out who made the complaint?" He shrugged. "Anonymous tips stay anonymous. But between you and me, this is the third complaint we've gotten about this address in 2 weeks. Same anonymous caller every time. 3 complaints in 2 weeks. About a house I'd lived in for barely a month." The rough texture of the inspector's clipboard under my fingers as I signed his report felt like evidence. Evidence that someone was playing a much bigger game than petty HOA violations. Someone with time, resources, and a serious grudge. I had a pretty good idea who. After that inspection disaster, Vivian switched tactics. If she couldn't intimidate me with fake authority, she'd drown me in paperwork. The violation notices started raining down like confetti from hell. Every 2 to 3 days, my mailbox delivered fresh harassment with the reliability of a subscription service I never wanted. Tuesday, seasonal decorations displayed out of season. My crime? A small American flag by my front door. Apparently, patriotism expires faster than milk in Vivian's twisted universe. Thursday, unauthorized vehicle modification visible from public areas. She was nitpicking my aftermarket floor mats. You know, the ones barely visible through my passenger window unless you're actively face-pressed against the glass like some kind of automotive pervert. Saturday, noise violations during restricted hours. I'd used my circular saw at 10 a.m., prime time for weekend projects, to fix one loose deck board. The screech of that saw cutting through wood was nothing compared to the screech I wanted to let out at this insanity. Each notice carried escalating fines. $50, then $75, then $100. She was testing my breaking point like a loan shark with a clipboard. I fought back the only way I knew how, with documentation. Photos of every violation notice, timestamps, detailed logs of Vivian's increasingly frequent drive-bys. I even started recording our phone calls, thanks to my state's single-party consent laws. Here's something I'd learned during those late-night legal research binges. HOAs are supposed to provide formal hearings before enforcing fines. Basic due process. They can't just demand money without giving you a chance to defend yourself. So I filed formal disputes for every violation, every single one. The responses were masterpieces of bureaucratic nonsense. Your dispute has been forwarded to the board for review. When's the hearing? Pending board meeting schedule. When's the next meeting? Further notice will be provided. I called the HOA management company. The board hadn't met in 8 months. Vivian kept postponing meetings, claiming scheduling conflicts. She was running a dictatorship with zero oversight. That's when Trevor escalated to direct intimidation. Wednesday night, 11 p.m. I'm half asleep on the couch when the crunch of footsteps on my gravel driveway jolts me awake. Someone's trying to be stealthy but failing spectacularly. Through my blinds, Trevor skulking around my yard with a phone flashlight like some cut-rate private investigator. I stepped outside. "What are you doing on my property?" "Official HOA business. We got noise complaints about this address." "From who?" "At 11 p.m.? That infuriating smug shrug. "Can't reveal sources." "You're trespassing. Leave now, or I'm calling police." Trevor's mask slipped. "Go ahead. My mom runs this neighborhood. You think cops are going to believe some divorced loser over a respected community leader?" The venom in his voice hit like ice water. This wasn't just entitled behavior, this was calculated cruelty. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. Trevor bolted like the coward he was, gone before I finished giving my address to dispatch. The responding officer was professional but useless. Can't do much without video evidence or multiple incidents showing a pattern. Video evidence. Got it. I installed security cameras the next morning. But while I was setting up my defense system, Vivian was building her offense. My neighbor Dolores knocked on my door that afternoon, clutching a stack of papers with shaking hands. "Marcus, mijo, you need to see this." She'd been intercepting violation notices from other residents, notices that never made it to their intended targets. Vivian had been having the mail carrier, who happened to be her cousin, misplace dispute letters before they reached the HOA management company. "She's been doing this for years," Dolores whispered, "making it impossible for people to formally challenge her." That's when I realized Vivian wasn't just power-hungry. She was running a systematic campaign of fraud. Bernard, a retired postal worker with spreadsheets dating back 15 years, confirmed the pattern. Janet from Legal Aid started researching state mail tampering laws. Our little resistance cell was becoming a full investigation team. Marcus, Janet said during one of our coffee meetings, her voice deadly serious. Homeowners have constitutional due process rights before fines can be enforced. If there's no functioning board and she's tampering with dispute mail, those fines are legally meaningless. The warm ceramic mug in my hands felt like an anchor in a storm. Finally, some solid ground to stand on. But Vivian's final escalation made my stomach drop into my shoes. The notice arrived on official letterhead, hand-delivered by Trevor himself with that same cocky smirk. Intent to file property lien, outstanding fines total $1,247 plus administrative fees. Payment required within 30 days to avoid foreclosure proceedings. She wasn't just coming for my money anymore. She was coming for my house. That lien notice hit me like a sledgehammer to the gut. $1,247 in fines, plus administrative fees that magically appeared from Vivian's imagination. 30 days to pay or face foreclosure proceedings. I stared at that paper until my eyes burned. The acrid smell of fresh toner ink mixed with the metallic taste of pure terror in my mouth. This psychopath was coming for my house, the only stable thing Zoe had left after our family imploded. My daughter found me at the kitchen table at midnight, still staring at that threat. "Dad? You okay? How do you tell your 16-year-old that some neighborhood lunatic might steal her home? Just HOA stuff, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." But Zoe's no fool. She saw the fear in my eyes. That's when something shifted inside me. Vivian could torture me all she wanted, but threatening my kids' security? That crossed a line I didn't even know existed. Time to fight back. Hard. I called Janet first thing the next morning. "Can they actually file this lien?" "Absolutely not," she said, papers rustling in the background. "State law requires unanimous board approval for property liens. No functioning board means no legal authority. What Vivian's threatening is straight-up fraud." The relief lasted about 30 seconds, because Trevor was ramping up his own criminal campaign. My security cameras caught everything. Day 1, footage of this entitled brat testing my back door handle while I was at work, bold as brass in broad daylight. Day 3, him cupping his hands against my kitchen window like he was shopping for appliances. Day 5, 47 minutes of Trevor trying to jimmy my back door lock with what looked like a credit card. The kid was learning burglary techniques on my property. How thoughtful. But the real revelation came when my neighbor Bernard reviewed the footage with me. "Look here," Bernard pointed at the screen. "He's leaving that screwdriver behind deliberately. Hidden in your flower bed. Why would he do that?" "Because he's planning to come back, and next time he's not just testing locks." The pieces clicked together like a circuit diagram. Vivian threatens foreclosure with fraudulent liens. Trevor breaks in to plant evidence that would justify those liens. Mother and son, tag-teaming to steal my house. I called the police with the break-in attempt videos. Officer Martinez was refreshingly direct. "This is felony-level criminal behavior," she said, studying the laptop screen. "But for burglary charges, we need him to actually enter the structure. Keep those cameras rolling. The moment he crosses that threshold, we've got him cold." Meanwhile, our neighbor network was uncovering the scope of Vivian's real crimes. Janet's legal aid connections helped us obtain HOA financial records, public documents that revealed the shocking truth. Monthly dues collected over $12,000. Legitimate expenses, maybe $3,000. The missing money, $40,000 in just the past 2 years. "Look at these payments," Janet said, spreading bank statements across my kitchen table. "Ashworth Consulting Services. That's Vivian's fake company. She's been billing the HOA for services that don't exist. Phil, a forensic accountant from 3 streets over, joined our investigation. His calculator sounded like machine gun fire as he tallied the theft. Inflated landscaping contracts to her relatives. Emergency repairs that were never performed. Consulting fees for imaginary services, Phil muttered, his pen scratching across legal pads. Conservative total? $65,000. The smooth texture of those damning bank statements felt like holding dynamite. We had enough evidence to destroy Vivian completely, but I wanted more than justice. I wanted public humiliation. The annual HOA meeting was coming up, legally required, impossible to postpone forever. Perfect venue for maximum exposure. We'll present everything, I told our team. Financial fraud, mail tampering, Trevor's criminal activities, in front of the entire neighborhood. She'll try to cancel, Dolores warned. Let her. That just proves guilt. We spent weeks preparing our presentation. Professional slides, organized evidence, witness statements, everything needed to expose these criminals in spectacular fashion. But Vivian was getting desperate, and desperate people make stupid mistakes. The next day, another hand-delivered notice from Trevor. Due to ongoing security concerns, the annual meeting has been postponed indefinitely. She was panicking, making increasingly illegal moves to protect her scam. Perfect. The deeper she digs this hole, the harder she falls, Janet said with satisfaction. That night, I found Zoe doing homework in her room, stress written all over her face. Dad, kids at school are asking about police cars at our house. Are we going to have to move again? The raw vulnerability in her voice almost broke me. She'd already lost her stable family. Now she was terrified of losing her home too. No, baby. We're not moving anywhere. I promise. Trevor's screwdriver was still hidden in my garden, waiting for his return. My cameras were recording everything, ready to catch him red-handed. But this wasn't just about stopping burglary anymore. This was about protecting my daughter's future from these predators. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for these criminals to spring it. 3 days after Vivian's lien threat, Janet burst into my kitchen like the house was on fire. "Marcus, we got her," she gasped, dropping a banker's box that hit my table with a satisfying thud. The musty smell of old documents and photocopy toner filled the air as papers spilled everywhere. Got her how? Financial records. 3 years' worth. My contact at the county clerk helped me dig these up. They're public documents, but Vivian's been hiding them behind bureaucratic red tape. I started scanning bank statements, expense reports, contractor invoices. Numbers that should have told a simple story, but read like fiction instead. Monthly HOA income, Janet said, her fingers stabbing at highlighted figures. 78 homes times $75. That's $5,850 per month, about $70,000 annually. Sounds right. Now look at legitimate expenses. Landscaping, $800 monthly. Insurance, $200. Common area utilities, $150. Snow removal, $300 in winter. Basic maintenance, maybe $400 average. I did the math in my head. That's roughly $23,000 per year in real costs. So where's the other $47,000 going? Janet pulled out a separate stack with the grim satisfaction of a prosecutor revealing the murder weapon. Administrative fees to Ashworth Property Management Services, $2,000 every single month. My coffee suddenly tasted like acid. For what services? According to these invoices? Community standards enforcement, compliance monitoring, administrative oversight, and resident relations management. She's paying herself to be a professional bitch. It gets worse. Phil appeared at my door. Apparently word was spreading through our resistance network. Look at these landscaping contracts. Ashworth Lawn Care Services. That's her brother-in-law. $1,200 monthly for comprehensive grounds maintenance in a neighborhood where you could mow everything in 2 hours with a riding mower. But here's the real kicker, Phil continued, spreading out more documents like he was dealing cards. Emergency repairs. New irrigation system for front entrance, $8,500. Parking lot resurfacing, $12,000. Community mailbox upgrades, $3,400. I drive past that entrance twice daily. There's no new irrigation system. Because the work was never done. These are phantom contracts. She authorizes payments to shell companies, then the money disappears. The texture of those fake invoices felt like holding evidence of pure evil. This wasn't neighborhood politics. This was organized theft from every family trying to build a life here. Total damage? I asked, dreading the answer. Phil's calculator sounded like machine gun fire. Conservative estimate over 3 years? $73,000, minimum. The number hit me like a physical blow. That was someone's college fund, someone's retirement savings, money scraped together by working families who trusted their community leader. Jesus Christ, I whispered. It's worse than that, Janet said quietly. Remember Dolores mentioned the family before you? Young couple with a baby who got driven out? Yeah? I found their violation records. 47 notices in 6 months. Total fines. $3,400. They paid every penny before they moved. She was bleeding them dry. And when they couldn't pay fast enough, she threatened liens just like she's doing to you. Suddenly, the entire nightmare made perfect sense. The harassment wasn't personal, it was criminal strategy. Keep residents focused on petty violations so they never examine the books. Target anyone who asks questions. Drive out troublemakers before they can organize resistance. My hands were actually shaking as I held those documents. We're not just fighting a power-hungry HOA president. Nope, Phil said grimly. We're fighting a criminal organization that's been robbing this neighborhood blind. The weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders like a lead blanket. This wasn't about my mailbox anymore. 78 families were being systematically robbed, and most of them didn't even know it. But in 2 weeks, at that annual meeting she was frantically trying to cancel, we were going to change that. Justice was coming, and it was bringing receipts. The discovery of Vivian's embezzlement scheme changed everything. This wasn't neighborhood drama anymore. This was a criminal investigation, and we needed to treat it like one. Janet organized our first official Operation Transparency meeting in my living room that Saturday morning. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the excitement of righteous anger as our little resistance cell transformed into something more serious. We need 3 things, Janet said, spreading legal pads across my coffee table like a war room briefing. Ironclad evidence, community support, and a public forum where Vivian can't control the narrative. Our team had grown. Dolores brought her encyclopedic knowledge of neighborhood history. Bernard contributed his meticulous record-keeping skills. The man had spreadsheets dating back to the Clinton administration. Phil handled financial analysis with the precision of a forensic accountant. And Janet provided legal expertise that kept us on the right side of the law. First priority, evidence organization, I said, channeling my inner project manager. We need a presentation that's so airtight, even Vivian's lawyers can't poke holes in it. We divided the work military style. Bernard created a timeline of harassment incidents, complete with photos and documentation. Phil built financial charts showing exactly where every stolen dollar went. Janet researched legal precedents for HOA fraud cases. Dolores coordinated with other residents who'd been victimized over the years. The legal research was eye-opening. Turns out HOA board members are fiduciaries. They're legally required to act in the community's best interest. Misusing funds isn't just theft. It's a breach of fiduciary duty that carries serious criminal penalties. Here's what most people don't know, Janet explained while highlighting relevant statutes. HOA officers can be held personally liable for mismanagement of community funds. We're not just talking about paying the money back, we're talking about potential prison time. That was our nuclear option. But first, we needed the perfect venue for maximum impact. The annual HOA meeting was legally required. Vivian couldn't postpone it forever without violating state law. The community center was already reserved, paid for with HOA funds she'd probably embezzled anyway. She'll try to limit attendance, Dolores warned. Last year she only sent notices to her supporters. Not this time, I said, pulling out a stack of flyers we'd designed. We're doing door-to-door notification ourselves. Our community outreach campaign began immediately. Every evening after work, our team split up and knocked on doors throughout Willowbrook Estates. The response was overwhelming. Finally, someone's standing up to that woman, said Mrs. Clara from Oak Street, whose violation notices filled a manila folder. I've been paying bogus fines for 2 years. She tried to fine me for having the wrong shade of beige shutters, laughed Tom from Maple Court. Beige? Like there's a legal definition of beige. The stories kept coming. Elderly residents bullied into paying hundreds in fake fines. Young families driven out by relentless harassment. Single mothers targeted for non-compliance with rules that didn't exist. Each conversation added fuel to our fire. By the end of the week, we had commitments from 43 households to attend the meeting. The community center only held 60 people. Meanwhile, I was setting my own trap for Trevor. My security system now included motion-activated lights, backup cameras, and direct alerts to my phone. If that little criminal wanted to break into my house, I was going to catch every second of it in high definition. The beauty of this setup, I told Bernard while adjusting camera angles, is that Trevor doesn't know we're ready for him. He thinks he's hunting me, but actually, I'm hunting him. The rough texture of the camera housing felt solid and reassuring under my fingers. 20 years as an electrician had taught me the value of quality equipment and proper installation. Phil finished our financial presentation that Friday night. 67 slides of damning evidence, organized with prosecutorial precision. Bank statements, fake invoices, shell company documentation, comparative analysis showing how much each household had been overcharged. The average family in this neighborhood has been robbed of almost $1,000, Phil announced, showing us the final slide. Multiply that by 78 homes, and you're looking at systematic theft that would make the mafia jealous. We practiced our presentation until we could deliver it in our sleep. Janet would handle the legal explanation. Phil would present the financial evidence. I would wrap up with the call for action, immediate removal of Vivian from all positions, full financial restitution, and criminal prosecution. What if she doesn't show up? Dolores asked during our final rehearsal. Even better, I replied. Nothing says guilty like the defendant fleeing the scene. But I had a feeling Vivian would show up. Her narcissism wouldn't let her miss the chance to defend herself in public. And her son's criminal behavior was escalating toward the kind of mistake that would give us all the ammunition we needed. The meeting was set for next Friday, 7 p.m. The evidence was ready. The community was mobilized. Time to bring down the house of cards Vivian had built on stolen money and stolen peace of mind. Justice was coming to Willowbrook Estates. Vivian's panic became obvious the moment our door-to-door campaign started gaining momentum. Word travels fast in a neighborhood when people finally have permission to talk about their shared nightmare. Monday morning, I found a new notice taped to my door. Not in my mailbox this time, but slapped right on my front door like a foreclosure warning. Emergency board meeting canceled. Annual meeting postponed indefinitely due to facility maintenance issues. I called the community center immediately. Maintenance issues? What maintenance issues? None that I know of, the manager replied, sounding confused. Mrs. Ashworth called Friday claiming there was a plumbing emergency, but our maintenance crew found nothing wrong. Your reservation is still active, so Vivian was now lying to public facilities to avoid accountability. The desperation was showing. But her son was taking a more direct approach to problem solving. Tuesday night, I woke up to the sharp stench of spray paint drifting through my bedroom window. My security cameras had captured everything. Trevor, dressed in black like some wannabe ninja, vandalizing my mailbox with bright red letters spelling SNITCH. Really? Snitch? What was this, middle school? Wednesday morning brought escalated vandalism. All 4 of my truck tires had been slashed, the rubber curled back like flower petals. The metallic taste of pure rage filled my mouth as I surveyed the damage. But Trevor had made a crucial mistake. My cameras caught him in the act, license plate and face clearly visible as he crept away from my driveway with a knife still in his hand. Now we're talking felony destruction of property, Officer Martinez said, reviewing the footage on my laptop, plus the spray paint vandalism from last night. This kid's building quite a rap sheet. When can you arrest him? Soon. But let's see how far he wants to take this. Sometimes criminals dig their own graves if you give them enough rope. Thursday brought psychological warfare. Anonymous flyers appeared throughout the neighborhood claiming I was a disgruntled ex-employee of some unnamed company, spreading lies about respected community leaders. The flyers described me as a divorced deadbeat trying to avoid legitimate HOA fees. The amateur hour character assassination would have been laughable if it wasn't so malicious. But the neighbors I'd spoken to weren't buying it. In fact, the smear campaign seemed to be backfiring. This just proves she's guilty, Mrs. Clara told me when I found her reading one of the flyers. Innocent people don't need to attack their accusers. Friday afternoon, Vivian made her most desperate move yet. She showed up at my front door personally. First time she'd dared face me since the inspection fiasco. Marcus, she said, her voice dripping with fake concern, I think we've let this situation get out of hand. What if we just reset everything? All outstanding violations waived, clean slate, fresh start. The woman was offering to drop $73,000 worth of community theft charges in exchange for my silence. The audacity was breathtaking. And in return? You drop this personal vendetta against me. Stop spreading malicious gossip about HOA finances. Let the community heal from all this unnecessary drama. I pulled out my phone and hit record, perfectly legal in my state. So you're offering to waive violations in exchange for me stopping my investigation into missing HOA funds? Her face went white. I never said anything about missing funds. Didn't you? Because that's what this is really about, isn't it, Vivian? The $73,000 you've embezzled over the past 3 years? How dare you? Prove me wrong. Open the books. Full financial disclosure. Public audit. She started backing toward her BMW like I was radioactive. You have no idea what you're playing with. I built this community. I can destroy it just as easily. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Cross me and I'll make your life unbearable. You think those violation notices were bad? You haven't seen anything yet. The recorded conversation was pure gold. Threats, admission of escalation capability, and implicit acknowledgement of financial wrongdoing. Our legal case was getting stronger by the day. But Vivian's final gambit came that night, delivered by Trevor with his signature smirk. Emergency HOA resolution, he announced, handing me an official-looking document. The board has voted to assess all residents a special emergency fee of $500 to cover unexpected maintenance costs, payment due within 10 days. $500. From every household, at the exact moment when our investigation was reaching critical mass. What board? There hasn't been a board meeting in 8 months. Emergency situations don't require full board meetings, Trevor said, that prep school arrogance radiating off him like cologne. My mom has emergency authority. Emergency authority that didn't exist in any legal document we'd reviewed, but the timing was perfect from their perspective. Drain everyone's bank accounts right before the meeting where we'd expose their crimes. The smell of desperation was getting stronger, and desperate people make fatal mistakes. I could feel Trevor's big mistake coming. Soon, very soon. The night before our planned HOA meeting expose, everything came to a head. I was working late at a commercial job site, rewiring an office building downtown. The overtime pay would help cover Trevor's tire-slashing damage, and frankly, I needed the distraction. Zoe was sleeping over at her friend Sarah's house, a planned sleepover that suddenly felt like divine intervention. My house would be empty from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. Perfect timing for someone planning something stupid. My phone started buzzing with motion alerts around 1:30 a.m. Trevor, right on schedule. The drive home felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white, the taste of stale coffee and anticipation coating my mouth. I pulled into my driveway to find my front door standing wide open, kitchen lights blazing, the sharp sound of drawers being yanked open and slammed shut echoing through the night air. This was it. The moment that would either vindicate everything or land me in the hospital. I grabbed my phone, started recording, and walked through my own front door like I was entering a crime scene, which, technically, I was. The kitchen was destroyed. Drawers emptied, paper scattered everywhere, my filing cabinets ransacked like someone had detonated a grenade inside them. And there, in the middle of the chaos, stood Trevor Ashworth, with his hands full of my HOA meeting documents. "Looking for something specific?" I asked, hitting record on my phone's camera. Trevor spun around, not even slightly embarrassed about being caught red-handed in my house. That entitled smirk was still plastered across his face. "My mom runs the HOA around here, so technically I can go wherever I want," he said, like breaking and entering was just another community service. The sheer audacity left me speechless for a second. "Are you completely insane? I'm protecting community interests. You're planning to spread lies about my family tomorrow night. Can't let that happen." He continued rifling through my papers while talking like this was a casual conversation instead of a felony in progress. The kid had zero comprehension that real-world consequences existed. I kept recording while dialing 911 with my other hand. "Yes, I need police. I have an intruder in my home who's currently burglarizing my property." 911, what's your emergency? "Home invasion in progress. 1247 Maple Street, Willowbrook Estates. Suspect is still inside my house." Trevor finally looked up from his treasure hunt. "Seriously? You're calling the cops? My mom's gonna have your ass for this." "Your mom's not here, genius, but the police will be. In about 6 minutes. That's when something shifted in Trevor's expression. For the first time in his privileged life, he was facing consequences that mommy couldn't fix with money or connections. "You can't arrest me," he said, but his voice had lost that cocky confidence. "This is all a misunderstanding. I thought you were having a break-in, so I came to help." By ransacking my kitchen and stealing my documents? I was looking for evidence of the real burglary. The desperation in his voice was almost pathetic. Almost. Blue lights started flashing through my windows. The cavalry had arrived. "Willowbrook Police! Anyone inside?" "In the kitchen!" I called out. "Homeowner Marcus Rodriguez. The burglar is still here." 2 officers entered with hands on their weapons, taking in the scene immediately. Destroyed kitchen, scattered papers, one very guilty-looking rich kid holding stolen documents. "Sir, step away from those papers and put your hands where we can see them," Officer Martinez commanded. Trevor's prep school arrogance made one final appearance. "Do you know who my mother is? She runs this entire neighborhood. You can't just hands behind your back. Now." The sound of handcuffs clicking shut was the most beautiful music I'd ever heard. 20 years of working with my hands, and I'd never heard anything more satisfying than those metal bracelets locking around Trevor's wrists. "Trevor Ashworth, you're under arrest for breaking and entering, burglary in the 1st degree, and destruction of property. You have the right to remain silent." "This is bullshit," Trevor screamed as they walked him toward the door. "My mom's gonna sue all of you. She owns this place. You can't do this to me." His voice echoed through the night air as they loaded him into the patrol car, still ranting about imaginary immunity and his mother's non-existent power over law enforcement. "Will you need us to stay while you document the damage?" Officer Martinez asked. "Actually, I've got it all on video," I said, holding up my phone. "Every second from the moment I walked in." "Smart thinking. We'll need copies for evidence." As the patrol car pulled away with Trevor still screaming in the back seat, I stood in my destroyed kitchen and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Tomorrow's HOA meeting was going to be very interesting, especially since the star witness for Vivian's defense would be calling in from county jail. The trap had worked perfectly. Friday night, 7 p.m. sharp. The Willowbrook Community Center was packed beyond capacity, standing room only, with the fire marshal actually having to turn people away at the door. Word about Trevor's arrest had spread through the neighborhood like wildfire, and everyone wanted front row seats to this long overdue reckoning. The air was electric with anticipation, that pre-storm tension you feel before lightning strikes. The smell of burnt coffee from the ancient percolator mixed with nervous sweat and righteous anger as residents filed in clutching years' worth of bogus violation notices. Local newspaper reporter Sarah Kim sat in the front row with her photographer, having caught wind of the story through police scanner chatter about last night's arrest. This wasn't just neighborhood drama anymore. This was news. And there, sitting alone in the very front row like she was attending her own execution, was Vivian Ashworth. Designer suit, perfect makeup, clutching a leather portfolio like it contained nuclear launch codes. The woman looked like she'd aged 5 years in the past 24 hours. I'd barely slept, spending the night cleaning up Trevor's destruction and preparing final presentation materials. But adrenaline was carrying me now, pure liquid energy coursing through my veins. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice carrying clearly through the packed room. "I'm Marcus Rodriguez, and 3 months ago, I moved to this neighborhood thinking I'd found a peaceful place to raise my daughter." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. People were nodding, leaning forward. Instead, I discovered a criminal conspiracy that's been systematically robbing every family in this community for years. I clicked to my first slide. Bank statements, financial records, all the evidence Phil had organized into prosecutorial perfection. "Ladies and gentlemen, your HOA president has embezzled over $73,000 in community funds." The gasp that went up from the crowd sounded like air being sucked out of the room. Camera flashes started popping as the photographer captured shocked faces throughout the audience. Vivian shot to her feet. "This is outrageous! I will not sit here and listen to these malicious lies." "Sit down, Vivian," called out Mrs. Clara from the back. "Let the man speak." I clicked through slide after slide of evidence. Fake consulting fees to shell companies, phantom repair contracts, inflated landscaping bills. The financial fraud was so extensive it required a spreadsheet just to track all the different schemes. But the money wasn't enough, I continued, feeling the crowd's energy building like an electrical charge. When residents started asking questions, Mrs. Ashworth launched harassment campaigns to silence them. Bogus violation notices, illegal property inspections, mail tampering, More slides. Photos of violation notices for imaginary infractions. Documentation of Vivian's surveillance activities. Recorded phone conversations where she threatened retaliation. And when harassment wasn't enough, she escalated to criminal behavior. Last night, her son Trevor broke into my home and attempted to steal evidence of these crimes. I played the video on the projection screen. Trevor, caught red-handed in my kitchen, explaining how his mother's HOA position gave him breaking and entering privileges. The crowd's reaction was immediate and visceral. Angry shouts, calls for justice, demands for accountability. Vivian tried to interrupt again. Trevor has mental health issues. He wasn't acting on my behalf. Really? I clicked to the next slide. Because his text messages tell a different story. The police had recovered Trevor's phone during the arrest. Screenshots of conversations with his mother filled the screen. Plans for the break-in. Instructions about what documents to look for. Vivian's explicit approval of criminal activity. "These are private communications," Vivian shrieked, her composure finally cracking. "You can't use those!" "They're evidence in a criminal investigation," I replied calmly. Speaking of which, that's when Detective Williams stood up from his seat in the back of the room. He'd been quietly observing, but now stepped forward with the authority of law enforcement behind him. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Detective Williams with the County Financial Crimes Unit. Based on evidence presented to our department, we executed a search warrant on the Ashworth residence this morning." The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop on carpet. "We recovered additional evidence of embezzlement, mail fraud, and conspiracy. Mrs. Ashworth, you need to come with us for questioning." That's when Vivian completely lost her mind. "This is persecution," she screamed, her voice cracking with hysteria. "You ungrateful people have no idea what I've sacrificed for this community. I built this place. I made your property values what they are." She was pointing wildly at the crowd, spittle flying from her mouth. "You're all just jealous because I had the courage to maintain standards while you people let everything go to hell." The photographer was getting every second of her meltdown on camera. This would be front-page material. "And you!" She spun toward me, her face twisted with rage. "You destroyed my family. My son is in jail because of your lies." "This is what happens when petty power becomes criminal behavior," I said, my voice cutting through her hysteria like a blade. The mic drop moment hit the room like a thunderclap. Applause erupted from everywhere at once. Justice had finally come to Willowbrook Estates. 6 months later, I'm standing in the same community center where Vivian's empire crumbled, but everything has changed. Instead of tension and fear, children's laughter bounces off the walls as families gather for our first annual Willowbrook Unity Festival, funded entirely by recovered stolen money. The legal reckoning was swift and brutal. Trevor got 18 months for felony burglary, and watching that entitled brat in orange scrubs during sentencing was worth every sleepless night he'd caused me. The judge wasn't impressed by his lawyer's good family arguments when the evidence included video of him ransacking my kitchen. Vivian's downfall was even more satisfying. 3 felony embezzlement counts, 2 fraud charges, conspiracy, the works. Her trial lasted 2 weeks, with our financial evidence dismantling every lie she'd built her reign on. When the judge sentenced her to 36 months in state prison plus full restitution, she actually fainted. Drama queen to the very end. The asset seizure was poetic justice. Her BMW, designer jewelry, vacation home down payment, all liquidated to pay back the $78,000 she'd stolen from neighbors just trying to build decent lives. We recovered $52,000 immediately, with structured payments covering the rest. But here's the beautiful irony. The excess funds beyond restitution transformed our neighborhood into something better than any of us had imagined. New playground equipment where kids actually want to play. LED streetlights that make evening walks feel safe again. Community garden beds growing where Vivian used to conduct her surveillance operations. Oh, and everyone's monthly dues dropped by 30%. Turns out, when you're not funding criminal enterprises, HOA management gets surprisingly affordable. "Dad, the scholarship kids want to thank you," Zoe calls out, grass-stained and genuinely happy for the first time since our divorce. The Willowbrook Educational Fund, seeded with recovered embezzlement money, just awarded 3 $2,000 scholarships to graduating seniors. Dreams that Vivian's greed almost destroyed are now becoming reality. I got elected HOA president, though I fought it tooth and nail. Turns out, running a community association honestly is pretty straightforward when you're not simultaneously operating a theft ring. Monthly meetings are actual community events now, with residents eager to participate instead of hiding from fake violations. The transformation runs deeper than money, though. New bylaws require financial transparency, term limits, and resident oversight committees. No more one-person dictatorships masquerading as community leadership. "Marcus, look at this." Dolores waves me over to the community garden, her weathered hands cradling tomatoes growing in the exact spot where Vivian used to park for surveillance photos. "These are from seeds my grandmother brought from Mexico." Now the whole neighborhood can taste my family's history. The ripple effects keep spreading like positive electricity through power lines. Our story inspired legislation requiring HOA financial audits. Legal aid societies use our case to train attorneys fighting community association abuse. I get calls weekly from harassment victims nationwide who found hope in our victory. Bernard mans the barbecue grill with the same precision he once used to document Vivian's crimes, while Janet coordinates the legal clinic we host monthly for residents dealing with property issues. Phil runs financial literacy workshops, teaching people how to read HOA budgets and spot embezzlement red flags. But the sweetest victory is watching my daughter lead a group of kids in planting sunflower seeds where Vivian's fake violation notices used to terrorize families. Zoe's growing up in a community where authority figures serve instead of steal, where neighbors support each other instead of living in fear. As twilight settles over the festival, string lights illuminate conversations between people who barely spoke 6 months ago but now plan family vacations together. Elderly residents share gardening wisdom with young parents. Teenagers volunteer to help with community projects instead of hiding indoors. The taste of perfectly grilled burgers and the sound of genuine laughter replace the bitter memories of violation notices and threats. This is what community was supposed to feel like all along. Here's what I learned. Document everything. Know your rights, and never let bullies convince you their position gives them power over your life. Sometimes the best defense against petty tyrants is simply refusing to be intimidated. Drop a comment below and share your HOA horror story. You're not alone dealing with people who think clipboards make them kings. And smash that subscribe button for more justice-served content on HOA Stories, because next week I'm telling you about the Karen who tried to steal my parking spot and ended up losing her job instead. Trust me, you don't want to miss that epic meltdown. The sound of children playing fearlessly in their own neighborhood is the sweetest justice of all.
Thanks for being here with us at HOA Stories. If you enjoyed today's showdown and seeing an HOA Karen get put in her place, click like, sound off in the comments, and subscribe to catch the next week's drama. You don't want to miss it.